Good afternoon. Welcome to Under One Roof MTL, the show where we demystify home ownership 1 week at a time. My name is Robin Flynn. We are with you until 1 p.m. and I am joined in studio, as always, by the Three Musketeers. The whole gang.
The whole gang is here.
Everybody is here. It's been a while since that's happened, which is kind of fun. We've got Martin Spalding from Fred & Martin Mortgages. Hello, Martin.
Hi, Robin.
Fred Pichette from Fred & Martin Mortgages. Hi, Fred.
Hi, Robin. Good afternoon.
And LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties. What's up?
How you doing?
We are great. We are happy to be here. It's decent outside for now. We've got a polar vortex rolling in this week, which is 2025 speak for winter.
Decent, Robin. What's decent about -10?
I didn't need gloves.
Okay,
that's how I
fine.
define decent. You know, this week it's going to be mitten weather.
You're a lot tougher than I am.
You need the gloves? Yeah, but I can never find decent gloves that work on a smart screen. I know they have, the ones with the little tips. You can still use your phone, but they never work for me.
You mean pawing away at your screen?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I need to be able to access my phone at all times.
So actually, they have this thing called like a nano gel or whatever that you can basically think of it like nail polish that you can put onto any glove effectively, and that renders any glove tactile for phones.
That's handy.
I can bring it next week if you'd like.
Please, I would love that.
Wow,
Oh my
look at
goodness.
LJ.
Solving problems here. Guys, let's start with our trivia question of the week, brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. You can visit their store at the Blue Haven Shopping Center, which is at 3705 St. John's Boulevard in DDO. And they've got multiple locations opening up, right, Martin?
I got the information now. So
Yes.
there are 2 new locations that were open before Christmas. They weren't ready, so they've closed them, and they will reopen January 27th in time for Valentine's Day.
Perfect.
There's one location on Peel, right next door to Chez Alexandre, and the other location is in Boisbriand, in the Faubourg Boisbriand.
Okay. Well, that's perfect because then you can order some ménage à trois cookies for
Absolutely.
Valentine's Day. Cheeky. Okay, the first person to text in at 514-790-0800 with the correct answer will win cookies from Felix and Norton delivered to their door. What is the term for a mortgage where the interest rate changes based on the Bank of Canada's prime rate?
It's not a too difficult question this week. Robin.
No, it's an easy one. You just got to be fast. You got to be the first one through. 514-790-0800.
It's all about the cookies.
All about those cookies.
Sounds shifty.
Shifty indeed. Guys, it was a very busy week with news. I don't know if we're, coming out of that holiday cycle. Things are starting to trickle in. We got the job numbers for the month of December, and they were quite strong. I think some economists were actually quite surprised. And now it's raising doubts about whether or not we're going to see another interest rate cut from the Bank of Canada this month. And we've got that announcement coming up in 10 days.
January 29th.
29th, exactly. So what sort of effect do job numbers have on interest rates? I know the job numbers play a role, but that's not the only factor that they consider, right?
Well, we could list off what the factors are,
Please.
and then we could jump in and really drill down on what the numbers that we saw for the job numbers in December, both on this side of the border and the other side of the border as well. They had positive job numbers as well. So the variables that the Bank of Canada look at before they take a decision whether they're going to lower interest rates, hold, or increase interest rates are economic growth and unemployment or employment. The inflation targeting, so that famous 2% that we've been hearing about for almost 2 years now. Global economic conditions. So is the economy slowing down globally? Uncertainty with major trading partners. So, we all know that tomorrow someone takes over the White House. He's very unpredictable. So are we going to get slammed by tariffs? And the fact that we've got kind of a wonky federal government right now. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the air. They look at the housing market. Is it positive, negative? Is it neutral? They also look at, let's face it, the 1.2 million mortgage renewals that are going to take place in 2025. So all these variables go into the decision, but I remain bullish. I still think that on January 29th, there's a lot of uncertainty going past that date, but I remain bullish that we're going to see another 25 basis points reduction on January 29th. Now, the variable in all this is that we saw positive job growth in December, and so that has put some doubt in whether the interest rates are going to go down or not. But I think the other factors supersede that announcement in December.
I think that the reality is, although we've been hearing a lot of great things in Quebec and in Montreal in terms of the real estate market, in terms of how things are going, the rest of Canada is really hurting. And a lot of markets are down comparatively. Sales are down, prices are down. I believe in the last 30 years is the worst condo sales in Toronto have been.
Wow.
So we're really extrapolating on long periods of time now. And people are hurting. So the reality is, especially when we consider financial stability and the credit conditions, we know that household debt levels are at an all-time high. We know that people are struggling with credit, that credit scores are down, that a lot of people are reaching out to Fred and Martin to come up with strategies in order to pay off some of these debts so they can improve their credit, so they can actually refinance and take care of some of the debt problems that they've been having. Thus, I'm with Martin on this one. We're going to see a reduction of at least 25 basis points because the economy needs the breath of fresh air, we can almost call it.
I think it's the first time we all agree that we're gonna have a rate cut of 0.25. You know.
Yeah, not just you all agree that there's going to be a cut, but you all agree on the exact amount, right? 25 seems to be the consensus.
But there's another twist, right? So a lot of our clients are not calling us up going, I've got a fixed rate. Can I switch it over to a variable? Should I go with variable? What should I do? Because the other twist in all this is that we've been saying this time and time and time again. Variable rates are directly attached to the Bank of Canada announcements. But last week, we saw the bond market tick up. Mm-hmm. And we actually witnessed fixed rates going up last week, which is sort of counterintuitive when you think about it. So again, the volatility is driven by fears of inflation, stronger than expected job numbers, and the ongoing political instability both on this side of the border and on that side of the border. And the number one thing that influences interest rates in Canada, let's face it, is the United States. So the big man's taking the White House tomorrow.
Yep.
There are speculations that are going to be like 100 executive orders that are going to be tabled tomorrow. And those famous tariffs that he's been talking about for 4 years, I think might become a reality. And it will also be interesting to see how we react to those tariffs.
I know there's been discussion about Canada, levying some retaliatory tariffs on things like lumber, steel, I believe, certain minerals that the Americans rely on. So
oil and gas has been another one that's been up for debate. A big debate on that one.
Electricity as well. I know the eastern seaboard, the northeastern seaboard, New England, they rely on Quebec, Hydro-Quebec for their electricity. But if there are tariffs levied and we enter this trade war essentially with the United States, will that have a huge impact on interest rates?
I think it'll have a huge impact in the economy, especially negatively. And the reality is that if we go down that road and we're already skating, the dollar is the worst I can remember seeing it in a very long time. If we continue down that path, then 100% it's gonna go into, we're gonna have to realistically reduce interest rates to try and lighten the load on the Canadian people.
Seems like people are just so used to the chaos now, though. Like, if I think my entire adult life has been chaos, basically. Things have always, from 2008, that was when I was entering adulthood, when we entered the recession time, the recession period. It has been chaos ever since. So I think for a lot of young adults who are in their 30s and 40s, it almost doesn't even faze us anymore. Like, I feel like at this point an alien could land on Earth and I'd be like, what's up? Like, it wouldn't even shock me anymore.
Life goes on, right? Life
goes on.
This too shall pass.
Exactly. Exactly. We'll get through it. You're listening to Under One Roof on CJAD 800. That's LJ. That's Martin. That's Fred. I am Robin. By the way, one of the advantages of working with guys like Fred or LJ is that they can serve you in one of 3 languages. Count them. Whether you prefer to handle your business in English, en français, or incluso en español, Fred and LJ have got you covered. You can visit their websites at ljrealties.com and fredandmartin.com for more. You spent a lot of time in Mexico, I believe, Fred.
Of course, Robin, and I like to help the LJ's client to serve them in Spanish, which is, I think it's a good plus as well. Like, everyone loves to be served in their primary languages.
Sí,
really.
señor.
No, but he's being what's the word? His Spanish is perfect.
Well, I would say perfect, but I practice Martin a lot.
No.
Do you have the Duolingo app on your phone?
No, not at all.
Obviously, you don't need it. What are you learning on Duolingo? Greek.
My wife's family's Greek.
Oh. I'm learning Mandarin right now. I just downloaded Duolingo this week. Shushi shui.
Oh, that's good.
This is water.
This is the Mortgage Minute. What should you do if your mortgage is up for renewal? This is your Mortgage Minute. Don't just settle for your lender's first offer. Start early. 120 days before your term ends is the perfect time to explore your options. Consider using the services of a mortgage broker. They'll do the heavy lifting for you, shopping around for the best rates and terms for multiple lenders. Take a moment to assess your financial goals. Have things changed since you last signed? Make sure your new terms fit your current needs. And remember, you have the power to negotiate. Take control and secure the mortgage that works best for you.
This is Under One Roof MTL on CJAD 800. I'm Robin. That's LJ. That's Fred. That is Martin. The gang's all here, folks. We're hanging out in studio. Guys, 1.2 million Canadians have their mortgage up for renewal this year. That's a lot of people. It's expected that 60% of Canadians will see their mortgage interest rate increase by 2026. So whether you're renewing this year or next year, your rate is going up. So what can homeowners do to start preparing, especially if there's somebody who is lucky enough to sort of sign in at one of those rock bottom pandemic rates? You're going to be in for a nasty surprise, right, LJ?
Yeah, my best recommendation is today, and even for people who don't own properties, what I encourage people to do is start living like you're on that new rate. So start effectively, let's say your current monthly payment is $1,500 a month for your mortgage, and you know that it's going to go up roughly 30%, so let's say that's going to be about $2,000 a month. Start making your monthly budget, considering a $2,000 a month monthly payment. Put that money aside right now for investments or to pay down your loan if you want at the time of that refinance, and just start building the habit. Because if you build it now, you're not going to have the same sticker shock, even if you have a little bit of learning to do along the way, as opposed to really getting caught surprised when it really hits you and you have no choice, and now you're really skating at that point.
Also, LJ, I would say you need to look at your current mortgage statement to see when it's your maturity date. What did you sign for? Did you sign for fixed or variable rate? You'll be surprised how many people call us, Martin and I, and they don't even know when is the maturity date, how much they own to their mortgage, and also they're not really sure if I'm on a variable or on a fixed rate. It's important when you renegotiate for your mortgage, you renew your mortgage, to first find out what did you sign for. That's step number one. And also, as LJ says, as you know, as 2020 and 2021 interest rates were really low during pandemic, obviously it's time to reassess your budget. That's for sure. That's number two as well. And I would say, like Martin says it in his Mortgage Minute, you could call a trustable mortgage broker to do the hard work for you, to find out what's on the market. You know, there's, I think, 28, 30 different lenders out there. It's hard to call them all, you know. Like that's, I would say that's very important that you start by those three.
To piggyback on what you're saying right now, Fred, this year, or I believe in December, they changed the way they're going to do the requalifications. So it's super important to know right now that you can take them to another institution and they don't have to go through the stress test anymore, which was a huge problem for a lot of consumers over the last little while. So you need to make sure you're working with somebody qualified and knowledgeable to ensure that they can really provide the best solution for you and avoid that stress test if possible, because a lot of times people have taken on more debt, have a lot of different things going on, and you're not going to qualify with that extra 2% stress test necessarily right now.
And so the big question that we've been asking a lot of our clients that are calling us up, should you just renew or should you refinance? Right? Because if you're just renewing, but you're carrying a lot of debt, or you've been putting off renovating your kitchen, or you've been putting off taking that memorable vacation, or you've been putting off topping up your RSPs, your TSFA, why not pull out some equity from your property and address those things? So don't, just because your lender sends you a renewal notice, don't jump at it. Take the time to take a step back. And first of all, I would start early, 6 months out, 120 days out, and I would pull out my mortgage statement to know when my maturity date is. And then you're going to get to work at looking at the last time you signed, what did your situation look like? And you're about to sign, how has your situation changed? Have you had kids? Has there been some work stoppage? Did you buy a new car? Have you been dreaming about buying a cottage? So how's your financial situation changed? Then what you should do is you should build a budget. Because we see this, and I'll just finish this one last thought. We see a lot of people just renewing, and there's a shortfall on a monthly basis, and they make up for that shortfall by putting it on their credit cards.
Yep.
So if you think over 5 years, and let's say you're $200 short every month, well, at the end of the year, that's $2,400. At the end of 5 years, that's a ton of money, which is compounding daily, and then you're going to really give yourself a financial headache. So the first question you have to ask yourself, should I renew or should I refinance? And if I'm refinancing, what am I addressing?
We've got a bunch of questions coming in, if I can, guys.
Go.
514-790-0800 if you have a question for the guys, by the way. This one from Anne. Hi, if I change banking institutions for my mortgage renewal, do I have to pay a fee? And what are the costs? I'm renewing for $197,000.
So if you're waiting until the end of your mortgage term to do so, there shouldn't be any penalties associated to that. The only fees that you're going to have are potentially an evaluation and the notary costs. Some institutions or some brokers might take care of that depending on the negotiation. Fred, what else do you have?
Also, in her case, I would say she could do a transfer from her bank to another lender, and she could avoid notary fees and avoid penalty, like LJ say, if we do the transfer at the maturity. And still, the appraisal for most of lenders in Quebec, not in Canada, are paid by the lenders or the banks, which is, I think in her case, I would do a transfer to another institution and possibly at no cost. And when we do a transfer, you have to understand two things. You need to keep the same remaining balance of your mortgage, which is you're not changing any amount, which is you're not pulling out equity. That's number one. And you're keeping the same amortization period, which is that's allowed you to transfer your mortgage from your current lender to another lender at no cost. The other thing that you need to know, if your loan to value is lower than 65% or at 50%, you're entitled to get an excellent fixed rate and an excellent variable rate as well. Meaning that, let's say you have a property worth $600,000, you have a mortgage balance of $300,000, you're at 50% loan to value, and you don't, as Martin says, if you're not hustling with your payment and you don't have too much debt, I would do a transfer at potentially no cost.
Why she should just give us a call. We'd be happy to take the journey with her.
Yep.
No cost to her. And we'll crunch the numbers, and then ultimately it'll be her decision to take.
All right, and fredandmartin.com is where you go to chat with these guys. Another question coming in. Can you apply for a mortgage after you've already made a cash offer to purchase a home direct from the owner? So I guess that's a house you've already owned and you're trying to take out a mortgage now?
No, what we're seeing a lot of the time is people, let's say, want to have a really competitive offer. So they're going to make their offer not conditional on financing. So they have access to a line of credit, or parents can fund them effectively so they can waive that condition.
Okay.
However, they still want to actually take a mortgage on the property. So they don't make the mortgage a condition on the purchase. They go through their inspection, they do their due diligence without the financing aspect of it. And then between the time that they actually put in that offer and we go to the notary, they go through the mortgage approval process behind the scenes effectively, and they put a mortgage on the property at the time of purchase.
Better than that. Get pre-qualified before you start doing that.
We have another question, if we can quickly get this one in before the news. Can you tell me what the law in Quebec states for a property that has adverse possession? The buyer is wondering what his legal right is to claim back the portion taken by the owner adjacent to him. I think we'll answer this one after the news. To find out more about your lending options, get in touch with Fred and Martin. fredandmartin.com is the website to visit. Coming up after the news, our real estate market update with LJ. Home prices are up. What does this mean for you? We're going to find out. 12:35 is the time here on CJAD 800. You're listening to Under One Roof MTL with Robin Flynn, LJ Aguinaga, Fred Pichette, and Martin Spalding. We had a text just before the news that I'd like to get the answer to. Hi, can you tell me what the law in Quebec states for a property that has adverse possession? The buyer is wondering what his legal right is to claim back the portion taken by the owner adjacent to him. I don't even understand what this question means. What are they asking exactly?
So in Quebec, we have this procedure, you can call it, which is called acquisitive prescription. And what that states is that if your neighbor is effectively using a part of your land for 10 years or longer, they're allowed to claim ownership on that piece of land. So that's what's happening here. I'm assuming they probably lost a piece of their backyard, or sometimes in Quebec, a lot of the time fences are put up and they're not necessarily put up on the property line. Sometimes they're 2 feet one way, 2 feet another way. And given the size of certain lots, it's like, oh, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to use that 1 foot or 2 feet by maybe 100 feet. But if somebody had plans to build a pool and they lost that land, well, now all of a sudden they don't have the same setbacks and stuff. So this is when sometimes it becomes a question. This is specifically for the land portion of it. If it was an actual movable, it goes into 30-year plus. But nevertheless, we're seeing a little bit more of that because people, I guess, certificate of locations, which is what show us where the property lines are originally, weren't super detailed and people didn't really pay much attention to it. And now with a lot more municipal bylaws and requirements to get different things approved, as people go to ask for these permits and whatnot, they're noticing that they've lost some land, etc. And that's where they're coming up. In terms of what to do to get it back, my understanding is that if it's gone, it's gone. It's already been dealt with. That's too late. But if you're in the process of it, you purchase a property and you want to take back land that hasn't actually gone through the legal procedure yet, then speak to a notary, speak to a lawyer, and claim that back. Move the fence, do whatever you got to do at that point.
Are the rules different in different provinces? Because my mom just went through this when they bought their house in Newfoundland. They found out during that whole process that the fence was 2 feet too far out, so they had the seller take down the fence and move it before they purchased. That became one of the conditions. So I guess the rules are different from province to province.
Every province has their own way of doing it, and us in Quebec with the civil code have our very much own way of doing things versus a lot of other provinces are on common law. So, yeah.
So in other words, pay attention to what your neighbor's doing.
And where, if your property lines.
And I would say take a title insurance and make sure the certificate of localization is right.
And this is a common issue. Somebody just texted in, my cousin bought a property next to his house. He put a fence around it. Some people sued for use of that land of his to be able to ski-doo across it. He's still fighting them. So this is something that goes on all the time. Okay, I want to get into our real estate market update. We don't do this every week. We do it when there's stuff to talk about, which means there's stuff to talk about. I saw that home prices were up 3.8% in Q4, and this was across Canada. Things are even hotter in Montreal, aren't they, LJ?
They very much are. So we just got released the statistics for Q4 in all of Quebec, but I'm going to focus on the greater Montreal area. So sales were up 48% in Q4. That is huge, and 20% on the entire year. So when you extrapolate that, people are buying a lot more properties, people are selling a lot more properties, there's a lot more transactions happening. Now, in the Montreal metro area, prices were up in 2024. Homes were up 7% over the course of the year with an average price of $578. Condos were up 5% at an average price of $408,000, and multiplexes were up 7% with an average price of $770,000. Now shifting over onto the island of Montreal, across all of 2024, homes were up 5% with an average price point of $749,000. Condos were up 3% with an average price point of $460,000, and multiplexes were up 6% with an average price point of $820,000. So we're seeing some pretty high returns, especially considering the fact that historically we say that real estate appreciates about 3% annually. That's the norm. This is just about double that in every single category.
So LJ, would you, with your experience, you've been at this 15, 20 years, would you consider this a boom?
100%. We're coming off of the lull that we saw over the last 24 months. Interest rates spiked. Everybody got nervous. Everybody was on the sidelines. And now everybody who put their plans on hold for those 24 months have come out of the woodwork, if you will, and they're all ready to rock. They understand that interest rates are going to continue to drop a little bit, but they're already at a point that are very affordable, quote unquote, compared to where they have been for the last couple of years. And they want to get into the market before they get priced out effectively. So we're seeing people jump in.
So your advice for a buyer would be, and your advice for a seller would be?
Advice for a buyer would be reach out to us, book a buyer's consultation with me and my team, reach out to your mortgage brokers, Fred and Martin, to find out what you can qualify for. We usually do those things hand in hand. With that, you're going to understand what the process looks like, understand what the next steps are, and at least have all the information required in order to make the best decision possible. And then for sellers, the best thing to do is, again, book a meeting with our team so we can give you an evaluation of your property and then discuss what are your plans, what do you want to do? Because it's fine and dandy that your home might be worth $300,000, $400,000 more than what you paid for it, but what does the next chapter of your life look like? Are you empty nesters? Do you need to downsize? Are you tired of having stairs in your home? Do you want something on one level? And once we can understand what your needs are effectively, we can put together a plan. Are we selling now, in the spring, next year? Whether it's in the next 9 days or the next 9 years, it doesn't matter to me. I've been at this for almost 17 years now. I'm not going anywhere. So we're just here to meet with clients and explain to them what the best options are for them. And then from there, you can make whatever decision makes the most sense for you.
One more question?
Well,
Is it a buyer or a seller's market right now in Montreal?
It's a seller's market and has been for a long time because we just don't have the inventory to be absorbed.
Okay.
but I hear a lot that there's not too many people really wants to buy a condo. In the condo market, it's down a little bit.
The condo market is down in downtown Montreal. And the reason for that is, I get this question almost
Yeah.
weekly right now. The reality is, during COVID, everybody wanted to leave downtown because downtown had shut down effectively. Companies were not going into work. Stores were closing. There was a ton of construction on St. Catherine. There was all sorts of things happening that was hurting the market. We start to get past the pandemic, and then there's two new factors that get dived in. The first factor is the fact that interest rates are significantly higher. Sorry, there's three new factors. The second factor is the fact that we have the foreign buyers ban. So we are currently not allowed to have foreigners buy property in Canada unless it's in remote areas or 4 units or more. So therefore, condos are off the table. So that takes off a huge chunk of it, especially in Montreal with 4 major international universities. We had a lot of foreigners who were buying properties for their children who were studying at the universities. And then we had some people doing some investment, obviously. And then the third part of this is the fact that we had the foreign buyers, we had that. We were building a lot of properties through this. From 2013 all the way up to around 2020, we had a boom in condo buildings. So we had a lot of developers who were putting up a lot of properties, and this was great when people were absorbing them all. But then you add these two factors to hurt it. We have a huge influx of inventory that was being sold at higher prices because the market had been appreciating really strongly. And then everything just got, the rug got swept from underneath them effectively. So the added inventory with the two other things to remove the buyer demand has really hurt the downtown condo market. Now, you take a step back and get out of downtown Montreal, the condos are doing great. Whether
Right.
you're in Laval, in the West Island, the South Shore, condos are producing very, very nicely, and they're getting the returns because there is a need for people who don't necessarily have the funds for a full single-family home, who just got married, who just got graduated university, etc., and want to have their own piece of home effectively, and that's the first transitory property for them.
Or people like me and my wife, and my kids will eventually finish the university, and
Want
I
to
think that
downsize.
the property, I want to downsize. Maybe
course.
the property is too big for two of us.
And that's, we're talking with a lot of people right now who are planning that future downsizing, who potentially want to be closer to the city because they intend to go to a couple of shows, whether that's concerts or art shows, comedy shows, etc. And they'd like the idea of potentially living downtown or closer to downtown, whether that's the old port or adjacent effectively. And that's going to be their retirement effectively. And right now, because the market has hurt so much for the downtown condos, they say, you know what, let me get into it now, get the lower prices today, and rent it out until I'm ready to move into it, and then eventually move into the property.
Or like a snowbird, like Mr. Spalding here.
One day, I hope. Actually, I was going to plug your event last Tuesday because I went to LJ's meetup event on Tuesday of last week. And there were probably 50, 60 real estate investors. And I can tell you I learned more about real estate investing in that event than I did over the last year. So I want to know, are you doing another event? How can I attend? How am I going to get notified? Should I just follow you on Instagram? Are you going to post it? Because if you're a real estate investor, I highly, highly recommend you attend this event.
So we do this event monthly. Every second Tuesday of the month, we host it. We host it at a couple different locations. Generally, it's been at our offices at the WeWork space and across the street from the Bell Center. You can find us on the Meetup group. So you go to meetup.com and type in Montreal Real Estate Meetup. You'll see my face. You'll see my partner Terry on there, as well as the hosts from the Canadian Real Estate Podcast, Dan and Nick. I do post about it on my Instagram page. You're always going to see the information, where it's hosted, what day it is, but it's effectively the second Tuesday of every month from 6 to 8 p.m. And we usually end up staying until 9:30 because there's so much to talk about and people are just exchanging ideas. It's a no frills, no commitment. You just come in, ask your questions, and there's always somebody there who's kind of gone through this or is one step ahead of you to help you through that process.
Great networking. And the two podcasters were there, and they really gave a great vibe.
Awesome. Love to hear it. If you're ready to jump in and invest, give LJ a call, 514-500-4040. You are listening to Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin. That's LJ. That's Fred. That's Martin. And what you guys don't realize is these guys are not just really smart, they're also great guys. They're awesome to hang out with. And I enjoy hanging out with you three every week. It's so much fun. One of my favorite parts of the show is when LJ runs down our property of the week, and I'm looking forward to this one.
Thank you. So are you looking for an awesome condo in the heart of Montreal that could double as an investment property? Discover 1481 Rue Saint-André in Ville-Marie. This 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo split over 2 renovated levels includes 2 kitchens, appliances on both floors, and a private gated parking downtown. Can you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
You could occupy the upper and rent out the lower. Just steps away from Barrie UQAM and the Beaudry metro stations, it's surrounded by shops, parks, and vibrant restaurants. Whether as a unique home or as an income property, this gem could be yours for $750,000. Don't miss out. Book your visit today. Now, your favorite part, if you're looking for a quick snack in the area, check out Allo Daisy. It's a nice little Korean spot that's got waffles. It's got almost like Korean ramen bowls. You name it, they've got it. It's a cool little spin on local food.
There's more Korean restaurants popping up in the Montreal area lately.
Korean barbecue.
We have two Korean restaurants that opened up in Chateauguay recently, including one that does like table tapanaki. Like you've got your little grill and you can cook right at the table. So cool. Yeah. Love that stuff. Okay, our trivia question of the week brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. What is the term for a mortgage where the interest rate changes based on the Bank of Canada's prime rate? The answer is a variable rate mortgage. Nathan in Kirkland was the first one of many
Nathan.
to text in to 514-790-0800. So you're going to get some cookies from Felix and Norton delivered straight to your door. Yummy, yummy. We learned a lot this week. At least I did. I always learn a lot on this show. One being that many factors influence interest rates, not just inflation. Job numbers, international affairs, the economy, there's tons of things that play in. So you've got to pay attention to what's going on in the world. I know it sucks. I don't want to watch the news. It can be depressing, but you kind of have to if you want to be a responsible investor and homeowner. I also learned that if your mortgage is up for renewal this year, you should get in touch with Fred and Martin at least 4 to 6 months before the age of maturity to figure out what your options are. Go to fredandmartin.com if you want to do that. I also learned that home prices are up more in Montreal than they are in other major Canadian cities. Now, traditionally, Montreal home prices have been less than the other big markets, right? It was much cheaper to buy a house in Montreal than Toronto or Vancouver. LJ, do you think things are going to level out?
No.
Oh.
They're not going to level out.
Are we catching up?
So you definitely are catching up, but there's still so much runway for us to catch up, which means that there's still going to be a huge upswing and kind of increase in prices right now. And I was thinking about this during the break. If we just kind of correlate this back, right, you can buy a property, let's say for $500,000. You can put as little as 5% down, but even let's say you go the 20% down route. You tie in $100,000. If that appreciated 7% for you this year, it's almost $40,000 that it appreciated on you.
Wow.
Because you're getting it on the full value of the property, not just your initial investment, right? So if you compare that to compared to your investment of $100,000, that would have been a 40% return.
And no capital gains. I keep
that?
saying it, and people don't listen. But the best investment is your principal residence.
For now.
For now. We'll see.
Oh, God. Are they going to start taxing the capital gains on a principal investment?
No, I don't think so. But
it'll be anarchy.
They increased the tax on the rental property.
No one would ever be able to retire ever again if they did that, basically.
I do want to give a shout out to all the listeners who sent us questions this week. We absolutely love it when you send us questions. It gives us an opportunity to showcase some of our knowledge with you on things that we didn't necessarily think about. So whenever you do have questions, please feel free to call in, text in. We'd be more than happy to answer them for you. That's what we're here for. We're your resources for all of your real estate questions.
It actually creates good debate. When we go into commercials, we talk about the questions. We go, I didn't see that one coming. And I'm listening to LJ, I'm listening to Fred, I'm listening to Robin, and I come out of here and I'm learning things. And I love that.
Exactly. My goal is always to never be the smartest person in the room because I always want to walk out of that room learning something that I didn't know before. I don't have to worry about that. Okay, on that note, that pretty much does it for us for this week. We will be back next Sunday at 12 p.m. right here on CJD 800. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about us and the show or even submit a question that maybe we can answer for you next week, just go to underoneroofmtl.com. You can also get in touch with LJ, Fred, and Martin individually. LJ, where should people go to get in touch with you?
Check out our revamped website, ljrealties.com, or on all socials with the handle LJ Aguinaga. That's LJAGUINAGA, or LJ Realties. You can also call or text me at 514-500-4040. And for all your property management needs, I know that a lot of people are frustrated. It's a difficult time of year sometimes. You have RL31s to start doing. You have renewal notices to start preparing shortly. There's a lot of administrative work to do over the next couple months. So if you want any help with that, reach out to our company, Plex Doctor. It's plexdr.com or 514-709-6397.
And I got the chance to speak to his guy, Thierry. Very sharp guy. So worth the phone call if you've got some properties that need management. Thierry's an ace.
He's
Amazing.
awesome. He is awesome.
Fred, Martin, where do people go to reach you guys?
2 times or 3 times?
3 times.
3 times?
3's the charm, right?
fredandmartin.com. That's one. fredandmartin.com. Fred and Martin You
know, guys, in marketing, there's something we call the rule of 7, whereas usually you have to say something to people 7 times before they finally get it through their heads.
I got 4 more to go then.
Yeah, exactly.
Robin, where do people reach out to you?
RobinFlynn.com. Best way to get in touch with me is my website. I'm also on all socials as well. If you're concerned about the TikTok ban and what that means for you, I've been on top of it. I have lots of clients in the U.S. who were texting me freaking out last night when it went dark at like 10 o'clock. So don't worry.
But Robin, what I really want to hear are your football predictions for this afternoon.
Ooh.
Right.
Ooh. I'm going to take Philly and Buffalo because my sister's an Eagles fan and my brother-in-law is a Bills fan.
Okay. But I will not. It's hard to bet against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. But it's going to be a great match.
I think the game to watch is the Bills this afternoon.
100%.
The Bills at 6:30, I believe, is the Bills game.
And as strong as the Ravens have been, I have a strong demographic of Ravens fans at my office, and they're nervous. I'll put that out there. They wish they had a different matchup coming up.
And what about this kid Daniels?
The kid Daniels? What about him?
The quarterback with Daniels?
Yeah.
His performance yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
And my Chiefs won. Just putting that out there. Taylor looked fabulous. By the way, she was sitting next to Caitlin Clark. Who's like the WNBA's #1 pick and like probably the greatest women's basketball player of all time. She will be.
She will be.
This is her rookie season,
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was really cool, especially because Caitlin is a huge Chiefs fan, grew up a Chiefs fan, and grew up a huge Taylor Swift fan. So that full circle moment to be a like VIP at a Chiefs playoff game, sitting next to your favorite singer, and the two of them are chatting, having a blast. Like, what a day.
How many times we saw her, Taylor?
Robin, I think you're projecting, actually.
Yeah. You know what? They didn't show Taylor at all until almost the end of the second quarter. Yeah. Travis had already made 2 big catches, and they hadn't even shown her yet. I was like, what is going on? I need to see the outfit.
She showed up a little bit late.
Oh, no, she arrived on time, dripped from head to toe in Chanel. I always scope out the outfit, guys. You know me, I've got it covered. All right, my thanks to Dean Mateos for producing the show today. My thanks to you for listening. If you missed anything, you can catch the show in its entirety on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. For LJ, Fred, and Martin, I'm Robin. Have a great Sunday.